The biggest lie about AI isn't that it's smart, it's that it understands. Modern AI doesn't know what it's saying. It doesn't reason. It doesn't inspect its own answers. It predicts what comes next, with enough fluency to fool us into trusting it. And once you see that, the way you use AI changes completely. When people talk about AI, they talk as if it understands information. They say it knows things, that it reasons, that it's figuring things out. And that assumption feels natural. Because when you ask a question and get a detailed, confident answer, your brain does what it's always done with language. It assumes comprehension on the other end. When AI explains a medical condition using technical terms, people assume it consulted knowledge. When it writes code and explains what each function does, people assume it understands the logic. When it gives you 3 specific reasons why a business strategy might fail, people assume it analyzed the situation. And here's what makes this so powerful. The outputs don't just sound right. They sound thoughtful. They anticipate follow-up questions. They provide context. They use phrases like based on, this suggests, and one consideration is. All the linguistic markers of someone who understands what they're talking about. So our brains do what they always do when language sounds this complete. We infer comprehension. Pause. But fluency is not understanding. That's the trap. The better AI gets at sounding natural, at mimicking the structure of expertise, the harder it becomes to remember. This is prediction wearing the costume of intelligence. And once that mental model slips, once we start treating probability like knowledge, almost every AI failure people talk about starts to make sense. Because the system was never confused. It was never wrong about what it knew. It just predicted something plausible, and we trusted the performance. Here's what's actually happening. Modern AI systems are prediction engines. They're trained on enormous amounts of text to learn patterns between words, phrases, and structures. Not meaning, not understanding. Patterns. When you ask a question, the model isn't checking facts. It isn't reasoning through a problem. It isn't inspecting its own answer. It's estimating. What sequence of words is most likely to come next? That's why AI can be right for the wrong reasons. And wrong with complete confidence. There is no internal understanding, no mental model of the world, no moment where the system gets it. The model doesn't know why something is true. It only knows what usually follows what. Scale is what makes this convincing. As models get larger, their predictions get smoother, more coherent, more persuasive. Fluency improves. Confidence increases. And we mistake that improvement in performance for an improvement in understanding. This is why newer models feel smarter without actually working differently. They don't cross a boundary into comprehension. They just predict better. They phrase answers more convincingly. They cover more edge cases. They sound more certain. But underneath, the mechanism hasn't changed. It's still probability, not knowledge. And once you see that difference clearly, a lot of AI behavior that feels confusing stops being mysterious. There's a simple way to tell the difference between prediction and understanding. Ask this: can the system show me exactly what it's basing this on? Not does it sound right? Not is it confident? But can it show its work? Let me show you what this looks like in practice. When an AI can point to specific sources, actual documents, papers, or links it retrieved, you're in better shape. Not perfect, but better. When it can break an answer down into verifiable steps, showing you how it arrived there, not just what the conclusion is, that's a checking step. When it can use tools in real time to calculate, to search, to verify claims as it makes them, now you're getting grounding. But if the output is just text, if there's no trail back to anything concrete, if you can't verify a single claim without doing all the work yourself, then what you're seeing is performance, not comprehension. The answer might sound complete. The explanation might feel convincing. The confidence might seem justified. But without a checking step, you're trusting fluency, not evidence. And here's why this matters. When there's no check step, mistakes don't look like mistakes. They look like answers. They get copied into reports. They get cited in arguments. They get built into decisions. Because nothing in the output signals that. This is just a plausible guess. This one question, can it show its work, recalibrates trust instantly. Not because it makes AI worse, but because it puts you back in control of what you're actually trusting. When prediction is mistaken for understanding, outputs turn into authority. And when outputs become authority, decisions stop being questioned. At that point, mistakes don't look like mistakes anymore. They look like policy. They look like procedure. They look like the system says no. And once no one is expected to check the output, no one is positioned to take responsibility for it. If you don't want to miss where this goes next, make sure you're subscribed. Each video in this series builds on the last, and the next one takes this pattern further. If you want the foundation behind all of this, start with the video linked here. The one rule that explains AI, no jargon. Because everything on this channel starts from one place. AI doesn't think. It predicts.